Welcome to another deep dive, everyone. Today, we're going to focus on leveling up your leadership skills.
We're diving into the wisdom of a guy named Bill Campbell.
Bill Campbell.
Yeah, he may not be a household name, but he was a coach, a mentor, really, to some of the biggest names in Silicon Valley.
Like CC?
Steve Jobs, the Google founders, people like that. And we're going to explore his unique approach to management and leadership as detailed in the book, Trillion Dollar Coach.
Trillion Dollar Coach. That's quite a title.
It is, and it speaks to the impact he had. But here's the thing. His ideas aren't just for tech giants. They're applicable to all of us, no matter what we do.
Is what we like to hear. So tell me, what was so special about this guy? What's his story?
Well, his career trajectory is fascinating. In just a few years, he transitioned from coaching football at Columbia University to a top position at Apple.
Wow, that's not your typical career path.
Not at all. And that unusual background is key to understanding his approach. He brought that tough love, team-first mentality from the football field and combined it with a deep understanding of relationship building. He knew business, but he understood people even more.
Interesting. Do you have an example of how that played out in the real world?
Oh, absolutely. Remember the iconic 1984 Macintosh Super Bowl ad?
Vaguely. Refresh my memory.
Bill was the driving force behind that ad. He pushed to air it even though the board wanted to pull it. It was a huge risk.
Yeah.
It paid off big time. That ad not only helped launch the Mac, it changed the landscape of Super Bowl advertising forever.
So he was courageous and had conviction, clearly important for a leader. But what about his coaching specifically? Was he just really good at giving advice?
It was more than just advice. He really focused on helping people become the best versions of themselves. And central to that was the idea of coachability.
Coachability.
Yeah, he believed that you could only truly coach someone if they had a few key qualities: honesty, humility, a strong work ethic, and a thirst for learning.
He sounds like he was really good at recognizing potential, maybe even potential that people didn't see in themselves. But how did he help them tap into that potential?
One of his techniques was something he called free-form listening. It's more than just, passively hearing someone. It's about being completely present, asking the right questions, and really getting to the core of the issue. He truly believed in the power of communication, building those strong relationships.
Yeah, that resonates with me. Strong relationships are so important in any field. But I've also heard that Bill could be incredibly direct, sometimes even harsh. How did that fit into his coaching style?
It's interesting, right? He was all about honesty, straightforwardness, sometimes radical honesty, you could say. He wasn't afraid to deliver tough feedback.
Can you give me an example?
He might tell a CEO that their website was a piece of shit or that their marketing team was shitty. Strong words.
Whoa, that's pretty intense. I'm not sure I could handle that from my boss.
But here's the thing. Even though he was blunt, people genuinely felt better after speaking with him. They knew it came from a place of caring. They knew he wanted them to succeed. That combination of honesty and support is what built trust.
That's a really important point. It's not just about being honest. It's about how you deliver that honesty with empathy, with care.
Exactly. Honesty without empathy can be destructive, but when you combine those two things, that's when you can build real trust.
So we've talked about Bill's approach to personal growth, but what about his approach to building high-performing teams? Did he have any strategies for that?
One of his core beliefs was that a manager's top priority should be the well-being and success of their people. He had this saying, work the team, then the problem.
What does that mean exactly?
He believed in assessing the team's dynamics, making sure you had the right people in the right roles before you even started trying to solve the issue.
Makes sense. It's like making sure you have a strong foundation before you start building a house.
Precisely. And he was also a huge believer in pairing people up, giving them opportunities to collaborate, to learn from each other.
So it's not just about individual talent, but about building a team where everyone can work together, support each other.
Exactly. And here's something that might surprise you. He really believed in bringing love into the workplace.
Love. Now, I'm intrigued, but also a little confused. What do you mean by love?
Not romantic love, of course. He was talking about genuine care, loyalty, creating an environment where people felt like they belonged.
Okay, that makes more sense. So how did that manifest itself?
He was famous for his warmth. He hugged everybody. He remembered details about people's families. He was always organizing social events. He even co-owned a sports bar, which became a hub for people to connect to build community.
So it's not just about cold, hard metrics. It's about those human connections.
Absolutely. And that sense of community was something he brought to the companies he worked with, like Google. It became a part of their culture.
It sounds like he understood that building a strong team wasn't just about getting the work done. It was about creating a place where people felt valued, connected.
Exactly. And that leads us to his definition of success. He called it winning right. It's about achieving success, yes, but it's about doing it with integrity, with dedication, and with a focus on teamwork.
So it's not just about the outcome. It's about how you get there.
You got it. He wouldn't celebrate a victory if it came at the expense of the team's values. It was about the journey, not just the destination.
That's a really powerful message.
Mhm.
So are you saying that Bill's approach wasn't just about business strategy? It was really a philosophy of life, a way of being in the world.
Exactly. It was about honesty, care, community, integrity. And that's why his ideas are so relevant to anyone, regardless of their job or their background.
I'm starting to see how he earned that nickname, Trillion Dollar Coach.
It's about more than just money, though. He had a profound impact on the people he coached, helping them become better leaders, better teammates, and ultimately better human beings.
Okay, I've got to admit, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with all this information. It's a lot to take in.
It is. Don't worry, though. We've distilled his wisdom into a 10-point summary to make it easier to apply in your own life and work.
A 10-point summary. I'm definitely interested in hearing that.
The first principle is to be coachable. Remember those qualities we talked about? Honesty, humility, a strong work ethic, a thirst for knowledge. It starts there.
Okay, I like that starting point, but we'll have to hear about the rest of those principles later, right?
Of course.
Hey.
We'll delve into the rest in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our exploration of Bill Campbell's wisdom.
We're diving deeper into those 10 principles from Trillion Dollar Coach. Seriously, everyone, if you haven't already, add this book to your reading list.
But as we always emphasize, it's not just about acquiring knowledge, it's about putting it into practice.
Right, so how do we take these ideas, these amazing concepts, and actually make them a part of our daily lives?
It can feel overwhelming, right? Where do you even begin?
Exactly.
I think a good starting point is to choose one or two principles that resonate most strongly with you. Don't try to do everything at once. Pick something meaningful, something you can actually focus on.
So don't get ahead of yourself. Start small.
Right. For instance, maybe you really connected with that concept of free-form listening that we discussed earlier. You could set a goal to be more present during conversations, to really listen to people. Put your phone away, make eye contact, ask thoughtful questions, those kinds of things.
Maybe even put a sticky note on your computer screen as a reminder. Or set a recurring alarm on your phone.
Those are great ideas. Little things like that can make a big difference.
And don't forget to celebrate those small wins. Every time you successfully use one of these principles, take a moment to acknowledge it. Give yourself a pat on the back.
Exactly. Recognize those moments where you gave feedback with kindness or truly listened to a coworker.
Those little victories will keep you motivated.
Now let's talk about habit formation because that's really the key here, isn't it?
It is. It's one thing to have good intentions. It's another thing to turn those intentions into lasting change.
Absolutely. One effective technique is to link new behaviors to existing routines. So, for example, if you want to bring more of your authentic self to work, you could try incorporating a little reflection time into your morning routine.
Like, what would that look like?
Just take a few minutes to think about your values, your strengths, how you want to show up that day. Set an intention.
Okay, I can see how that would be helpful.
Or if your goal is to create a stronger sense of community at work, maybe commit to having lunch with a different colleague every week. Little things like that can make a big difference.
It's about finding those little ways to weave these principles into your daily life.
Exactly. And remembering that it's a process. It's not about perfection. It's about progress.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
There are going to be bumps along the way.
There will be. You'll face obstacles. You'll have setbacks. There will be times when you fall back into old patterns. That's inevitable. But the important thing is to not get discouraged.
So what do you do when that happens?
You view those moments as learning opportunities. You reflect on what happened, what you could do differently next time, and you keep going. Remember Bill's emphasis on perseverance. He believed that everyone has the capacity to grow, to improve, as long as they're willing to put in the effort.
And that effort doesn't just benefit you.
Right. It has a ripple effect. As you become a better leader, as you build stronger relationships, as you embrace those values of honesty, care, and community, you inspire the people around you to do the same.
It's about creating a better work environment for everyone,
Hmm.
a more positive, more supportive environment.
Exactly. And that positive energy can extend beyond the workplace. It can impact your family, your friendships, your community. It's powerful stuff. Now, let's go back to that idea of radical honesty delivered with care that we talked about earlier. That's a really powerful concept, but it can be tricky to get right.
It is. It's a delicate balance. We might avoid difficult conversations altogether, or we might go too far and say things in a way that's hurtful or unproductive.
Exactly. Bill showed us that it's possible to be direct, to be honest, even to use strong language, but to do it in a way that comes from a place of caring. Remember that story about him telling a CEO that their website was a piece of shit?
Yeah, I remember. It was a pretty bold move.
It was. But the CEO knew that Bill cared about him, that he wanted him to succeed, and that's why he was able to receive that feedback and use it to make his website better. It all comes back to trust. When people know that you have their best interests at heart, they're more likely to be open to your feedback, even if it's tough to hear.
So how do we develop that ability to give feedback effectively? What are some practical tips?
One thing you can do is focus on the behavior, not the person. So instead of saying you're being difficult, you could say, I find it hard to collaborate when I'm constantly interrupted.
Right, that's much less accusatory.
And be specific. Instead of just saying your presentation was bad, you could say, I think your presentation could be more engaging if you added some visuals or told a story.
So give concrete examples and suggestions for improvement.
Exactly. And then there's freeform listening, which is more than just passively taking in information. It's about really engaging with the person you're talking to, asking questions, showing genuine interest.
Being present in the conversation,
Yeah,
not just waiting for your turn to speak, something I'm definitely guilty of sometimes.
we all are. But Bill reminded us that communication is a two-way street. It's about listening as much as it is about talking. And that listening is so important for building trust. When people feel heard, they're more likely to open up, to share their ideas and their concerns.
That vulnerabilities.
Exactly. And Bill understood the importance of vulnerability. He believed in showing your human side at work, acknowledging your strengths, but also your weaknesses, asking for help when you need it.
He wasn't afraid to show his emotions either. He'd celebrate a win with a hug or shed a tear when things didn't go as planned.
He was a real person, and people were drawn to that authenticity. They could sense his warmth, his compassion.
There's that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's so true, and it perfectly describes Bill. He taught us that leadership is not just about expertise or authority. It's about connecting with people on a human level. Speaking of connection, let's talk about building community. Bill was amazing at that.
He was. Remember those Super Bowl trips he used to organize?
I do. He'd bring together this diverse group of people, tech executives, childhood friends, all sorts, and they'd bond over football and food and just being together.
And his sports bar was like that too. It was a welcoming space for everyone. He really understood the importance of community.
He did. He knew that building a strong community takes effort, but that the rewards are worth it. It creates a sense of belonging, it builds trust and loyalty, it can even lead to innovation and collaboration. So how can we apply this principle in our own lives? We might not all be able to host Super Bowl parties, but there are other ways to create meaningful connections.
Definitely. It could be something as simple as organizing a potluck lunch for your team, or volunteering for a cause you believe in, or just making an effort to get to know your neighbors.
It's about being intentional, about creating opportunities for people to come together, to share experiences, to build relationships, because those relationships are the foundation of any successful team, any successful company, any successful community. So we've talked about building trust, fostering community, giving feedback with kindness. But what about that idea of winning right? What did Bill mean by that?
That's a good question.
Well, for Bill, it wasn't just about achieving success. It was about doing it with integrity, with dedication, with a focus on teamwork. He wouldn't celebrate a win if it came at the expense of the team's ethics or values. It was about the journey, not just the destination.
So it's not just about the what, it's about the how.
Exactly. And it reminds us that true success is about more than just metrics or bottom lines. It's about building something you can be proud of, something that reflects your values, something that makes a positive impact. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but I want to circle back to one more principle that really resonated with me. Bring your full self to work. Why was this so important to Bill? He believed that authenticity is essential for building trust and respect. He wanted people to feel comfortable being themselves, expressing their ideas, sharing their passions. He wasn't a fan of that cookie-cutter corporate culture. He wanted people to bring their whole selves to the table.
I love that.
It creates a more vibrant, more creative work environment. When people feel safe to be authentic, they're more likely to take risks, to challenge the status quo, to come up with innovative solutions.
It's about creating an inclusive culture where everyone feels valued and respected for who they are.
Exactly. And that's a legacy worth fighting for in every area of our lives. So as you think about these principles, ask yourself, what are your unique talents and gifts? How can you bring more of your true self to your work, to your relationships, to your life?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It really gets to the heart of Bill's message, doesn't it?
It does. Bill wasn't just a coach for executives, he was a coach for life. He helped people discover their potential, pursue their passions, and make meaningful connections. He was the real deal.
It's clear why he earned that nickname, Trillion Dollar Coach. His impact goes way beyond the financial success of the companies he worked with.
It does. He touched the lives of so many people, inspiring them to become better leaders, better teammates, and better human beings. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought. We've talked about all these great principles, but how do we make sure we actually implement them? How do we prevent them from just becoming another list of good intentions?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is, and that's exactly what we're going to explore in the final part of our deep dive.
We're back. We're in the home stretch of our deep dive into the world of Bill Campbell.
We've explored his journey
From football coach,
to a Silicon Valley legend.
we've unpacked those 10 powerful principles from Trillion Dollar Coach.
And now the real challenge begins.
Because it's one thing to talk about these ideas.
To feel inspired.
It's another thing entirely to put them into action in our daily lives.
Right, so how do we bridge that gap? How do we actually integrate Bill's wisdom into our everyday routines?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is, and I think it starts with choosing one or two principles that really speak to you. Don't try to do everything at once. Pick something achievable, something you can really focus on.
Keep it simple.
Exactly. So let's say you want to work on that free-form listening we discussed. You could set a goal to be more present during conversations. Put your phone away, make eye contact, ask thoughtful questions.
Those are all great practical tips.
Little things can make a big difference.
And remember to celebrate those small wins along the way. Each time you successfully apply one of these principles, acknowledge it.
Yes. Give yourself a pat on the back.
It'll keep you motivated.
Now let's talk about habit formation.
Because ultimately that's what we're talking about, right? Turning good intentions into lasting change.
Precisely. One effective way to do that is to link the new behavior you're trying to develop to an existing routine. So for example, if you want to bring more of your authentic self to work, you could try adding a few minutes of reflection to your morning routine.
Okay, what would that look like?
Just take a few moments to think about your values, your strengths, how you want to show up that day, set an intention.
I like that.
Or if you're trying to build a stronger sense of community, you could commit to having lunch with a different coworker every week.
It's about finding ways to weave these principles into your daily life.
Exactly. And remembering that it's a journey. There will be bumps along the road. There will be times when you fall back into old habits.
It's natural.
It is. But the key is to not give up. Remember Bill's emphasis on perseverance. He believed that everyone has the capacity to grow and change if they're willing to put in the effort.
And that effort doesn't just benefit you.
Right. It has a ripple effect. When you become a better leader, when you build stronger relationships, when you embrace those values of honesty and care and community, you inspire the people around you to do the same, and that creates a more positive and supportive environment for everyone.
And that positive energy can extend beyond the workplace.
Absolutely. It can spill over into your family, your friendships, your community. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a challenge.
Lay it on me. I love a challenge.
Choose one principle from Bill Campbell's playbook that really resonates with you. Write it down,
Okay.
put it somewhere you'll see it every day, and commit to putting it into practice this week.
I'm in.
Share your experience with a friend, a coworker, maybe even on social media. Let's start a movement of trillion-dollar coaches, all working to make the world a better place.
I love that idea. Now, before we go, you promised us a 10-point summary of those game-changing principles.
I did, so here it is. Number 1, be coachable. Remember those key qualities: honesty, humility, a strong work ethic, a thirst for knowledge. It all starts there.
Makes sense. What's next?
Number 2, Practice free-form listening. Be fully present in conversations, asking insightful questions to uncover the real issues.
Active listening is so important. Okay, what's number 3?
Build trust through radical honesty and care. Be direct, be honest, but always deliver feedback with empathy. Remember, you want to help people succeed.
Honesty without empathy can be brutal.
It can. All right, number 4, work the team, then the problem. Focus on building a cohesive, supportive team before you tackle the challenges.
Solid advice. Okay, what's number 5?
Embrace love in the workplace. Create an environment where people feel cared for, valued, like they belong.
I love that. It's a good reminder that business is ultimately about human connection. What's
Yeah.
number 6?
Pair people up. Give them opportunities to collaborate, to learn from each other, to build those relationships.
Peer-to-peer learning is so valuable. Okay, what's next?
Number 7, be decisive. When it's time to make a decision, make it. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis.
Sometimes you just got to go for it. What's number 8?
Manage the aberrant genius. Recognize that some high-performing individuals might have challenging personalities. Their talent might outweigh the disruption they cause, but make sure their behavior doesn't cross any ethical lines.
Right, it's about finding that balance.
Right.
Okay, what's number 9?
Bring your full self to work. Encourage authenticity, individuality. Create a workplace where people feel comfortable being themselves.
Love it. Okay, last but not least, what's number 10?
Win right. Achieve success with commitment, with teamwork, and with integrity. It's not just about the destination, it's about the journey and how you get there.
That's a great way to sum it up. Winning with grace and integrity. So there you have it. 10 powerful principles from the trillion-dollar coach himself. This is just the beginning.
It is. The real work starts now.
That's right. Thank you all for joining us on this journey. Keep learning, keep growing, keep striving to be better.
And remember, the best is yet to come.